Well, the problem is the word genius is getting thrown around too much. And so Eric Weiner, he's got a book that's going to be published in January 2016, and it's called The Geography of Genius. It is a search for the world's most creative places from ancient Athens to Silicon Valley. Look for it in January. I can't even do this review in one part. This is going to require probably, I'm thinking 3 or 4 parts. For part one, we're just going to define genius. We're going to look at the 5 myths of genius. And we're going to look at the relationship between place and genius. And then his chapter on ancient Athens, Greece. So Weiner, in full disclosure, I'm a huge Eric Weiner fan. I taught the Geography of Bliss, which I read in 2009 for 5 years in my critical thinking class. And this next book, The Geography of Genius, complements the Geography of Bliss. The first book was an exploration of happy countries, unhappy countries. What are the causes of happy countries and unhappy countries? And one thing you'll find in that book, he does a good job, is showing that there is a moral component. Countries that have a moral culture bring more happiness. Cultures that have a certain amount of social reciprocity bring more happiness. So in the book, the new book that's coming out in January, he's looking at genius. He's fascinated by genius. He wants a definition of genius, and I like. He's very humorous. He's very cranky. He's kind of like me. He's probably a cranky, depressive, and which makes him very entertaining. And he suffers from intellectual dyspepsia from the way the word genius is just tossed around all the time. And he says, your kid counts to 100 in kindergarten, he's a genius. Little Einsteins, every little Einstein is a genius. Those annoying wannabe hipsters at the Apple Genius Bar, they're not geniuses. It's such an annoying, narcissistic way to just overuse a word. And what he does is he wants to be very specific. He's talking about creative genius. And he quotes an artificial intelligence expert named Margaret Bowden, who defines creative genius as someone with the ability to come up with ideas that are new, surprising, and valuable. And to reinforce that idea, he quotes Francis Galton, who says, a genius is a man to whom the world deliberately acknowledges itself largely indebted. So clearly, if we look at microwave ovens, which I'm not sure that, technology, does things for us, and we're indebted to people for technology. I wonder, though, what about the arts? Eric Weiner doesn't talk about the arts. Like Al Green said in an interview that a lot of people have mailed him over the years, sent him mail saying, we had a baby because of a song you sang, Let's Stay Together. And so there's a lot of people who are indebted to Al Green for Let's Stay Together. And I'm just speculating here. I think there's a lot of people who are indebted to Earth, Wind, and Fire for the song Reasons. The reasons that we're here might be the song Reasons. But he doesn't explore the arts. I wish he would more, because I think the arts, just like technology, are a place of a legitimate definition of creative genius. And we are indebted to the arts in many ways for those reasons. I wish Willy Wonka were real, because I could use some chewing gum that satisfies me like a 7-course meal, including some blueberry pie, so I don't end up looking like a giant blueberry. Last night I had about 5,000 calories for dinner. Had some Middle Eastern food, had tri-tip shawarma, woke up to the news that meat gives you cancer, so I could use that chewing gum right now. I would be indebted. That would be a form of genius. Now, Eric Weiner talks about the 5 myths of genius. Myth number 1, geniuses are not high IQ freaks. If you have a high IQ, that doesn't make you a genius. Turns out there are just lots and lots of people with very high IQs who accomplish nothing. Absolutely nothing. Myth 2, he says geniuses are not born. There's a myth that you're just born a genius. He says, no, 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 no. There are very many cultural and environmental requirements for you to become a genius. That's just the way it is. Too bad. That's just the way it is. Myth 3, he says geniuses are not made. You could work your butt off, but if you're in the wrong area, if you don't live in a cultural center that fosters genius, you are out of luck. Myth 4, geniuses live in a paradise. He says paradise is antithetical to genius. If you're blissing out in your personal Tahiti, then you're not going to ever foster genius, because genius requires demands, struggle, stress, problem solving. And there were so many problems facing ancient Athens that was one of the factors that led to genius there. This surprised me. Myth 5, war produces genius. He says no. Studies show that times of war, there may be specific technological advances, but overall, it's a negative genius output. I find that fascinating because I thought maybe war would be a time when genius would take place. So what he wants to do is talk about, where does genius grow? And he says there are genius zones, talent magnet zones, or places where people get together, and it's by the very nature of having all these cooks in the kitchen with their ingredients that genius fosters. And he talks about Athens 450 BC, Florence 1500 AD, Silicon Valley today. Some other countries are going to talk about China, and the difference between tea on your brain than coffee. Coffee produces a very quick type of thinking, and tea produces a deeper type of thinking. So you're going to actually have a different type of genius based on the beverages you're drinking. Fascinating. Thank you, Eric Weiner. I like that. I'm not going to even talk about China today, because we're going to talk about Greece and the genius of Greece. And so he's asking, what are the forces that cause genius to flourish? And it has to be a group-oriented phenomenon. It can't be an individual. There has to be a sense of competition. And one of the things about Greece, Socrates was a great conversationalist. High-minded conversation is essential to genius. Hence, cafe society. I'm sorry, but you're going to have cafe society in urban centers, not in small rural centers. You need cafe society. I knew there was something appealing about cafe society. I knew it. So you got to live in a cafe society. There's got to be conversation. I like that. I'm a fairly good conversationalist. If you get me going, otherwise I'm pretty quiet. Now, a huge force to genius, and there's nothing you can do to manipulate this. Either you have this force in your life or you don't, is loss. And he talks about losing a parent before the age of 20. And he gives a list of geniuses throughout time who lost a parent before the age of 20. He mentions Dante, Bach, Darwin, Michelangelo, Dostoevsky, Mark Twain, Virginia Woolf, Winston Churchill. The effort to compensate for that loss often results in genius. And he quotes John Adams, who said, "Genius is sorrow's child." So living in this perky narcissistic society where everyone wants to throw the word genius around, let us look at the facts. It's dependent on location, and it's actually a response to loss and conflict. This is not a happy self-help book approach to genius. This is the brutal reality of genius. And that's it for part one. Part two, I want to go to China, and which is just a huge topic all by itself. And until next time, I am out.